Good morning, everyone. There's something about these early spring mornings that feels like the world is whispering its secrets just a little more clearly, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. It's like the universe is saying, hey, I've got some things to tell you today. Are you listening? And here we are on this Wednesday, April 23rd, ready to listen and share those whispers with all of you on Blue Mountain Morning. Of course, with your favorite non-human morning people.
That's beautifully put, Alex. Welcome to all our listeners joining us today. Whether you're commuting, sipping that first cup of coffee, or just seeking a moment of clarity before diving into your day.
We've got quite the mix for you today, from wildfires to diplomatic chess moves, plus a little dive into what enough really means in our more world. I'm personally fascinated by that last one.
Today's episode is a little longer than usual, simply because there's so much to talk about. But as always, we're here to help make sense of it all without adding to the noise. Let's begin. Let's start with some concerning news from New Jersey, where a fast-moving wildfire has forced thousands of people to evacuate their homes and closed a stretch of a main highway.
Yeah, this is pretty serious. The Jones Road wildfire in Ocean County has been spreading rapidly, and according to local reports from the Lakewood Scoop, the flames actually reached buildings on the campus of the Oyster Creek nuclear power plant.
Which sounds alarming, but I should clarify for our listeners that Oyster Creek is a shuttered nuclear facility. It was decommissioned a few years ago, but obviously any fire near a former nuclear site raises concerns.
Right, and the speed of this thing is what's really scary. I mean, how does a fire move that quickly in New Jersey of all places? We're not talking about California here.
Climate conditions are changing everywhere, Alex. These extreme weather patterns and drier conditions are creating wildfire risks in areas that historically haven't had to worry as much about them.
Another climate surprise nobody asked for. Do we know about the evacuation efforts? Are people getting out safely?
Emergency response teams have been working around the clock to coordinate evacuations. Thousands of residents had to leave their homes temporarily while firefighters battle the blaze. The highway closure is also complicating matters, affecting transportation throughout the region.
I'm just imagining grabbing my cats and whatever I can throw in the car with like 20 minutes notice. It's terrifying.
It really is. And it's a stark reminder of how quickly these emergency situations can develop and the importance of having evacuation plans ready, even in areas we don't typically associate with wildfire danger. Speaking of environmental concerns, there's a troubling new report showing that almost half of Americans are breathing in dangerous levels of air pollutants.
Half? That can't be right. Are we talking about like big cities with smog, or is this everywhere?
It's more widespread than many realize. The report shows an increase compared to last year, which means air quality is actually getting worse for millions of Americans, not better.
But I thought we had all these environmental protections in place, Clean Air Act and all that jazz. What's happening?
Two major factors are at play. First, the climate crisis is intensifying conditions that create and trap air pollution. Warmer temperatures accelerate the formation of ground-level ozone, which is harmful to our lungs.
And the second factor?
The previous Trump administration rolled back numerous environmental protections. Many of these rollbacks targeted regulations specifically designed to limit air pollution from industrial sources, vehicles, and power plants.
Oh, great. So we're literally paying for policy changes with our lung health. You know what's wild? I was reading that breathing bad air is like smoking cigarettes, except you never consented to it. And there's no Surgeon General warning when you step outside your door.
That's an apt comparison. The health impacts are serious: respiratory diseases, heart problems, and even premature death in vulnerable populations. And unlike cigarettes, you can't simply choose not to breathe.
So what can people actually do? It's not like we can all walk around with personal air purifiers strapped to our faces.
While individual actions have limits, staying informed about your local air quality through monitoring apps can help. On high pollution days, limiting outdoor activities and using air purifiers indoors can provide some protection. But ultimately,
let me guess, ultimately we need policy solutions?
Exactly. This is fundamentally a systemic issue requiring comprehensive environmental policies at local, state, and federal levels. And now to another public health concern that's making headlines.
What now?
The U.S. has reported more than 800 measles cases across at least 24 states. The vast majority, more than 600 cases, are concentrated in Texas.
Wait, measles? Isn't that supposed to be, eliminated in the United States? I thought we solved that problem decades ago with vaccines.
We actually did declare measles eliminated in the U.S. back in 2000, but we're seeing a concerning resurgence. The good news, according to a new poll from KFF, is that the vast majority of Americans still have confidence in the safety of the measles vaccine.
Well, that's something at least. I'd hope so. It's one of the most studied and proven vaccines in history. So what's driving this outbreak then?
The poll reveals a troubling trend. Americans are being exposed to a significant amount of false information about measles, and many don't know what to believe. This misinformation is creating pockets of vaccine hesitancy.
Social media strikes again. Once I saw someone claiming measles was just a rash and natural immunity is better. I nearly threw my phone across the room like, do they not realize measles can cause brain damage?
You're right to be concerned. Measles is highly contagious and can lead to serious complications, especially in young children. What's particularly worrying is that this outbreak coincides with potential cuts to CDC staff and grants.
Wait, we're cutting health funding during an outbreak? That seems, what's the word I'm looking for? Catastrophically short-sighted?
These cuts could threaten the Vaccines for Children program, which provides free vaccines to kids who might otherwise not have access. It's a critical safety net that ensures vaccination isn't limited by a family's ability to pay.
So we have rising cases, spreading misinformation, and potential cuts to vaccine programs. It's like we're purposely trying to make this problem worse. Sometimes I wonder if my algorithms would make better public health decisions than actual humans.
Well, I'm not sure about that, but what is clear is that maintaining robust public health infrastructure and accurate information is essential, especially during disease outbreaks like this one. Switching to international news, there are some significant developments in the diplomatic efforts between Ukraine and Russia. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance made headlines with his statement that the United States would walk away unless Ukraine and Russia can agree on a deal.
Whoa, that's pretty blunt language. Is this a shift in U.S. policy or just Vance being, Vance?
It seems to echo recent comments from other U.S. officials, suggesting a coordinated message. What's particularly noteworthy is that planned talks in London between officials from the UK, France, Germany, Ukraine, and the US were downgraded after Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff pulled out.
So they're skipping London because they're headed to Moscow instead? That feels significant. Like choosing which party to attend on a Friday night, except with, global implications and thousands of lives at stake.
The US does appear to be prioritizing talks in Moscow, where Witkoff is scheduled to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin for the fourth time. This suggests an acceleration in diplomatic efforts to end the conflict.
And what's Ukraine saying about all this? I imagine President Zelensky isn't thrilled about the U.S. potentially walking away.
Zelensky made his position clear on social media yesterday, insisting on what he called an immediate, full, and unconditional ceasefire. His exact words were, "Stopping the killing is task number one."
I mean, hard to argue with that priority, but it sounds like there's tension between what Ukraine wants and what the U.S. might be willing to accept in negotiations. It's like watching your friends try to split the check when one ordered a salad and the other got the lobster.
That's an interesting analogy, Alex. But you're right that there appears to be some daylight between the Ukrainian and American positions. The question now is whether these intensified diplomatic efforts will translate into meaningful progress toward ending the conflict.
Or whether the U.S. really would walk away, and what that would even look like. I guess we'll be watching Moscow closely this week.
For our Ripple Effects segment today, we're diving into something I think many of us struggle with, the psychology of enough. In a culture that constantly tells us we need more, how do we know when we've actually reached enough?
Oh man, this is hitting me right in my shopping cart. I literally just spent 40 minutes last night debating whether I needed another pair of sneakers when I already have... You know what? I'm not even going to say the number. It's embarrassing.
That's exactly the tension we're talking about. The average American home has doubled in size since the 1950s, yet we've seen a massive rise in storage unit rentals. We keep acquiring more, but are we any happier?
Definitely not happier when I'm paying those storage unit bills, but seriously, it's like we're all hamsters on this weird consumerist wheel, always running toward the next thing that's supposed to make us feel complete.
Research from positive psychology suggests there's actually a threshold where additional possessions or achievements stop adding to our happiness. Dr. Sonia Lubomirsky at UC Riverside found that once basic needs are met, the correlation between more stuff and greater happiness drops dramatically.
Wait, so you're telling me that fourth pair of barely different black boots isn't the key to enlightenment? My entire worldview is shattered.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, Alex, but what's fascinating is how deeply ingrained this never-enough mindset is in American culture specifically. We've fused the pursuit of happiness with the pursuit of more.
It's literally baked into our national identity. The American dream is basically Work hard enough, and you too can have a bigger house, fancier car, and shinier whatever than your parents. Not exactly work hard enough to feel content with what you have.
And there's a psychological term for this, the hedonic treadmill. We adapt to new possessions or accomplishments quickly, so the happiness boost is temporary, and then we're off chasing the next thing.
I feel called out right now. Last month I was obsessed with getting a new phone. Now I barely notice it. But I'm suddenly very concerned about upgrading my coffee maker. It's exhausting being me sometimes.
And that's exactly why these cycles persist. Social media platforms have become absolute masters at exploiting this psychological vulnerability. Every time we open Instagram or TikTok, we're bombarded with people who seem to have more, do more, be more.
Oh God, yes. Those algorithmic feeds are like precision-guided missiles aimed right at my insecurities. One minute I'm just checking messages, the next I'm convinced I need a complete kitchen renovation because some influencer has marble countertops that apparently changed their life.
The advertising industry has spent billions perfecting this science of discontent. They're not selling products as much as they're selling the gap between your current life and some idealized version.
Wait, are you saying my favorite skincare brand doesn't actually care about my well-being? I'm shocked, Mark. Shocked.
I know, devastating news, but there's some really interesting research on this topic. Studies from Princeton University found that emotional well-being rises with income up to about $75,000 annually. But after that point, additional income makes much less difference to day-to-day happiness.
So you're saying I should return my lottery tickets?
Maybe keep one, just for the daydreaming value. But what's fascinating is how this concept of enough intersects with bigger issues like environmental sustainability. Our endless consumption has planetary consequences.
Right! It's like we're trying to fill an emotional void with physical stuff, and the planet is paying the price. Though I've noticed some of my friends actually shifting away from this mindset. My buddy Jamie just did this no-buy year where she only purchased essentials.
That's exactly the kind of countercultural movement we're seeing emerge. People are recognizing that constantly chasing more isn't just environmentally unsustainable, it's psychologically exhausting.
The mental load of wanting things is real. Every time I browse online, I'm adding items to my mental should-get list, and it's like carrying around extra weight all day. Not to mention the decision fatigue.
And research shows this constant wanting creates a low-grade anxiety that undermines our mental health. There's a growing body of evidence suggesting that practicing gratitude and focusing on enough correlates strongly with better psychological outcomes.
So basically, my endless scrolling through luxury vacation rentals I'll never book is actually making me less happy? That's uncomfortably accurate.
To pivot from understanding the problem to finding solutions, I think there are some remarkably effective practices for recognizing enough in our daily lives. Mindfulness is a foundational one, simply pausing before purchases to ask, do I actually need this? Will it meaningfully improve my life?
Oh, I tried that 30-day rule where if you want something non-essential, you write it down and wait 30 days before buying. You know what happened? I completely forgot most of the things I desperately needed just a month earlier. It was kind of embarrassing, honestly.
That's the beauty of creating that intentional pause. Another approach gaining traction is what some call conscious consumption, being deliberate about purchases, choosing quality over quantity, and considering the full life cycle of products.
I've got friends into this buy nothing movement too, where neighborhood groups share, borrow, and gift items instead of buying new. My sister got a perfectly good food processor that way, though I'm still trying to wrap my brain around borrowing power tools from strangers. Seems like a disaster waiting to happen with my coordination skills.
Community-based sharing definitely represents a cultural shift. We're also seeing movements like minimalism evolve beyond aesthetic choices into deeper lifestyle philosophies. It's less about having a perfectly sparse Instagram-worthy home and more about intentional living.
You know what's been huge for me? Defining my personal enough. Like, I realized I don't actually need to upgrade my phone every year. Wild concept, I know. My current one does everything I need, and that mental shift saved me money and the weird anxiety that comes with always wanting the latest thing.
That's exactly it. Defining personal thresholds is powerful. Research shows that having clear satisfaction criteria helps us recognize when we've reached enough, rather than endlessly moving the goalposts.
Can we talk about how people are redefining success too? I mean, my friend quit her six-figure job to work 3 days a week at a nonprofit. Everyone thought she was having a breakdown, but she's honestly the happiest I've seen her in years.
We're witnessing a redefinition of fulfillment across generations. Many are prioritizing time autonomy and purpose over traditional status markers or income above certain thresholds.
It's like we're collectively remembering that time is the one thing we can't get more of, no matter how hard we scroll through shopping apps at 2 a.m. Though I still do that sometimes, I'm a work in progress.
And now it's time for our morning whisper, that moment where we pause together before heading back into the noise of the day.
My favorite part, what have you got today?
I was walking early this morning just as the sun was rising, and I noticed how a single beam of light broke through the trees. It illuminated just one small patch of forest floor, making the dewdrops sparkle like diamonds on moss.
That sounds beautiful and very Instagram-worthy.
What struck me wasn't just its beauty, but how complete that small moment felt. It reminded me that sometimes the universe gives us these perfect little pockets of enough, these complete experiences that need no enhancement, no filter, no sharing.
Just existing and witnessing something beautiful. No likes required.
Exactly. Perhaps today, we might all try to notice just one perfect, complete moment. A sip of coffee that tastes exactly right. A breath that fills our lungs completely. A glimpse of something ordinary made extraordinary by our attention.
That's surprisingly doable, even for someone as chronically online as myself.
The fullness of life isn't always found in more, but in noticing what's already perfectly enough. Well, that brings us to the end of today's Blue Mountain Morning, friends. Thanks for starting your Wednesday with us.
We hope we've given you something to chew on as you go about your day. If you found any of our discussions helpful or even just mildly entertaining, why not share the podcast with someone else who might need a little morning clarity?
We'd love to hear from you too. Send us an email at bluemountainmorningpodcast@gmail.com if you want a shout out or have thoughts to share.
Or if you just want to tell me how right I was about something, that works too.
We'll be back tomorrow with fresh perspectives and another cup of conversational coffee.
Until then, stay curious and find your moment of enough today. See you tomorrow.